Yo, here's my formal-ish review on the AEBoard's Naevy Tactile switches and the start of a new series, A Novice's Look. I've been using these switches for a couple of days, and I think I have my opinions formed. However, this whole community is based on preference, and each person will have their own, so take my opinion with lots of salt. By the way, I paid for everything in this video, and that will likely continue for the near future, so my opinions are completely my own. A quick disclaimer though, I'm no expert in most things that I will be talking about on this channel, and you should probably go check out other channels if that's the experience you're looking for. Also, keep in mind that I've only used a few switches, and I've only used a few boards. Most of these are not even custom. I'll put these on the screen quickly. Okay, see you for my first switch review. Leave a comment with some criticism. Thanks! Let's start with the stems, arguably one of the topmost 5 important parts of the switch, and influences feeling the most. This is due to the variation of them, with some featuring a tactile bump versus a smooth leg of a linear like a gator on black ink. The legs of the stem are what come in contact with the leaf, and when you press the switch down, the legs will push the leaf onto itself, causing a complete circuit, and voila, your key is pressed. This stem is a proprietary MPE blend that AEBoard states retains the smoothness of umwipe or UHMWPE. However, it keeps the low shrinkage rates and dimensional accuracy of palm. Umwipe, or ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene, is a thermoplastic polyethylene that is super duper tough, sub-lubricating, and most importantly, non-toxic. So in theory, it could be eaten. Just like this. Oh! Ew. Holy sh... Anyway, those are Wiki's words, not mine, except for the smart stuff. To get back on track, butt wipe is mostly used for parts that have a lot of moving and in-contact components, such as bearings or even hip and knee replacements. POM, or polymethylethylene, or acetyl, or polyacetyl, or polyformaldehyde, is a low-friction thermoplastic like butt wipe, but does not have the shrinkage problems, but instead retains excellent dimensional accuracy. Again, it is mostly non-toxic, so in theory... Just kidding, that bit hurt, dude. Psych! Ow! Ow, dude. Pierced my tongue. That was really stupid, dude. Both of these materials were featured in previous versions of the Switch, but now it's the cool new blend that I talked about earlier, so that's cool. The shape is interesting, as it has a longer pole than many other Switches, offering a faster bottom out. The bump is MX Clear-like, according to AEBoards, but I'm not too sure about that, and they said that the bump isn't like Holy Pandas, so if that means anything to you, there you go. The housings, however, are Panda derivatives, and have a nylon bottom housing and a polycarbonate top. These are pretty common in the Switch world, so there isn't that much to go over, and although housings can make a big difference, my monkey brain cannot handle that info. I just go with the fact that the more opaque the housing is, the deeper the switch will most likely sound, and these switches are pretty opaque if I do say so myself. I cannot really compare the housings to Gator on black inks, as theirs are a proprietary blend of who knows what plastics. Sorry about that. They're also only 3 pins, so beware PCB mount people. I'm going to lump the spring and the leaf in the same kind of paragraph or whatever, because they don't really have enough substance to just make one. The spring is a 58 gram spring, so pretty light compared to others like my 70 gram Gator on black inks. These spring weights are based on pascals, I believe, basically how much force it takes to press the switch down all the way. They are standard springs, nothing much to them, not even gold. Something interesting is that the switch, or the spring rather, was not strong enough to return my spacebar with the shitty lube job that I did. So if your spacebar is bad, keep that in mind. The leaf is a leaf, nothing much to say in that regard. Obviously, these switches are tactiles, and although they don't relate to linears and feel much, I can still feel the scratchiness of them. I'm going to be honest, they did not feel good when I first got them. When I press down without any key gap, there's a little bit of scratchiness before and during the bump, but a whole lot after. I've probably been spoiled after using borderline over-lubed Gator on black inks. These switches are known as some of the most smoothest you can get for the uninformed, but my opinions and observations stand. I actually found that my stock Gator on browns were not nearly as scratchy. In fact, when I tried them to compare, I was surprised because they had very little scratch. Back to the navies. The tactile bump is in the middle between a sharper bump and a rounded bump to me. It is fairly fast and located like 1/3 down the travel. This means that there's a small bit of pre-travel before the bump, but that was super minimal to me. The bump is strong enough to basically force me to bottom out, and in my opinion, it was pretty big. However, reading some forums, people said that it felt like a manufacturing hiccup, which is insane to me, probably because I've only used cherry browns and their derivatives for tactiles. Interestingly enough, while lubing these, I figured out that they were factory lubed on the legs of all places. If you didn't know, lubing the legs of the stem makes the tactile bump a lot less pronounced, and the feel of the switch more towards a linear. However, lube on the legs does not generally affect the scratchiness of the switch. If you're coming from the same scene as me, I think that this tactile bump is a lot, and I love knowing that my switch is pressed with tactile feedback during gaming as well as typing, and we all know that I love gaming. Damn it! And typing. I liked to film them as they had a little bit of housing wobble. Oh shit. I forgot the housing wobble check. Well, surprise housing wobble check incoming! Woo! Surprise wobble check! Alright. So here's the surprise wobble check. Right here we have the stock navy. Here we have the Lubed film navy. Here's the stock gator on brown, and here's the Lubed film gator on brown. So over here, oh shit, up, down, left, right. So it's actually pretty good. Maybe mediocre. Here, it's about the same. Actually, this switch seems to be a little worse than this one, but you know, that's different from switch to switch. Here's the stock. Here you can see that there's housing wobble on this one, more so than the navies. And here's a Lubed filmed one, which or Lubed filmed gator on brown, which is a little wobbly. Housing too, but I'd say they're about the same, if not better, than the navy. So there you go. Yeah. All right. Now that we're done with that, we can finally get to the feeling of these modded switches. They were lubed with Tribosis 3203, Krytox GPL 105 on the springs, bag lubed of course, and filmed with Deskeys films. Tribosis 3203 is the thinnest lube of the big three switch lubes. Krytox 205G0, typically used for linears, Tribosis 3204, used for linears and tactiles, and Tribosis 3203, used for tactiles. Order from thickest to least, naturally. Krytox GPL 105 is a super thin oil. Think like thin honey, and is used for bag lubing springs. Bag lubing springs includes putting all your springs into a plastic bag, then shaking the shit out of them until they're all coated with lube. It is for lazy turds like me. Finally, Deskeys switch films are little films that go between the top and bottom housing of the switch to make up for bad tolerances. These usually go on to make the feel and sound of the switch better, but not all switches need them. There are many types of films, but Deskeys is usually praised as the best. Now, as for the actual feel and lubed of filmed switches, I can definitely say that the bump is much sharper, and they feel a lot smoother. No wonder Mr. Tejas says that they feel good. I think that the bump is nicely presented and shaped, if not a little underwhelming. However, I think that these have come a long way from how scratchy they were at the beginning. When I first got them, they sounded pretty scratchy, squeaky, crunchy, the whole works. Not that appealing. However, after breaking them in for a couple of days, they sounded a lot better. Not quite great, but definitely much more crisp and clean. Sound tests and comparative tests now. I think that they sound a little deeper and you can definitely hear the tactility, at least to me. They have a much crisper sound compared to when they weren't lubed, mostly because that scratchy sound wasn't present anymore. Anyway, let the results speak for themselves. I think that they're probably worth a pickup even if you aren't going to lube them. First off, they are a little off-putting with the scratchiness and sound, however over time the switch gets smoother and broken in and sounds a lot better. And I think that if you're coming from linears or cherry brown style tactiles, then this will definitely be a brand new experience and they are super fun to play around with. But I'm not so sure that many people here will be keeping them stock. For those who won't, I think that these are a pretty sweet switch. The tactile bump isn't super strong like many on the market, however, it still feels satisfying every time that you press a switch. I'll leave it up to you to make an informed decision about these switches, and please don't only watch this review, watch others because I have almost no idea what I'm talking about. Thanks, and look out for other videos.